The American dream is dead. But if I get elected president, I will bring it back bigger and better and stronger than ever before, and we will make America great again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
2016, year of the snake. Time for a change in the White House, y'all. Bring it. If you want the real deal, then you gotta get a real deal. Want the real leader, then you need a real man. Build a wall, deal with all them terrorists. America needs a man that can. If you wanna feel safe in your own backyard, one choice. You gotta play your trump card. I say Trump, you
There's Karen. How's it going? Make America great again. Janet, how's it going, my friend? Good to see you. Just letting some folks get in the room. Good evening, Lenny. Anada, how's it going? Good to see you. Let's see. I say Trump, you say hell. There we go, you guys. Hope good to see you, Jackie. Good to see you. Desiree, thank you. Yes, 2020. Jackie said your phone was tapped by the Democrats for a quick second out here in New York. Yeah, that happens. That happens. You have no idea. Oh, yeah, we're talking about Ricky Gervais. That was awesome. Judy, good to see you. Bell, good to see you. Welcome to the show. Welcome, you guys. Welcome. We got a lot of good news tonight, you guys. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. There's a lot going on now. Thank you, Cindy. Once the music calms down, maybe it'll get a little better. Oh, I know, Karen. Wasn't that great? Such a great call out. If you didn't get to see the Golden Globes monologue, you should go watch it after the show. Hey, my Belle. Hello, Bill Bell's mama. Good to hear from you. Good to have you on the show here listening in. Good to have you all here. This is, of course, our favorite brand. We like to start the show with Laser Snake. Make America great again. Trump. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. You are watching the one and only Trump Talk US 2020 live in DC with Suzzanne Monk. I'm Suzzanne Monk. We're 8 minutes away from our nation's capital, which is just right outside this window. You can see it from here. We're about 13 minutes away from our president's White House, where President Trump is, of course, doing some fantastic things. We can't even begin to say all of the fantastic things that President Trump did in 2019. And now here we are in 2020. And like a boss, we just go storming in. So I want to talk a little bit. We did our last show on Iran. We talked entirely about the Iranian issue. Hey, Tim, how's it going? I got your call. I didn't get a chance to call, pick up your call, but I did see you call, Tim. So Hopefully we'll get a chance to touch base. But I wanted to sort of do a little quick review on what's going on in Iran and with Iran, with the Iraq situation, what Nancy is talking about with this crazy war powers, that all of this, man, it all ties in together. So as you know, we had an embassy attacked in Iraq by Iranian-backed terrorists. President Trump responded very quickly in taking out the General Soleimani, the head of the Iranian army, and the most prolific terrorist out of Iran. Took out his second in command, took out several of his contacts there in Iraq. It is important to understand. This is what a lot of people are not understanding. How's it going, Kevin? How's it going, Catherine? This is a lot of people are not understanding. First off, I know some of you have people on your newsfeed that don't seem to understand that Iraq and Iran are two different countries and very separate locations. How's it going, Audra? So first and foremost, we have to understand that, but we have to understand that Iraq and Iran have been in conflict with each other for many, many, not just decades, probably centuries. And within the modern conflict between Iraq and Iran, we have a lot of infiltration in Iran that has already infiltrated the government of Iraq, the government that was established after the United States came in, destroyed the regime. This is why it's such a bad idea for the United States to come in and do these regime change kind of activities in other countries, because we are now left with the aftermath, and that we're always responsible and accountable somehow. We get stuck, and we keep being stuck there over and over. Some actually interesting things are happening in Iraq that I think are going to lead to hopefully a new era in foreign policy and how we deal with our military powers and in how we interact in foreign countries in dealing with terrorism, as we're doing in Iraq. Now, so Iran has about, as I am told by reports, at least 100,000 operatives from Iran are on the ground in Iraq. Okay. A good portion of the Iraqi government is Iranian based, is backed by Iranian influences. Thank you, Rusty. Erica, good to see you. The parliament, which just voted, we're going to talk about what the Iraqi parliament just voted on. The Iraqi parliament is a majority Shiite Muslim backed by Iranian influences. There has been an ongoing Iranian-Iraqi conflict with Iranians throughout history attempting to infiltrate and control the government of Iraq. It's the same thing that happened in Syria. You saw how Iran used Syria as a satellite country to conduct a lot of its activities. The same thing their intent is with Iraq, which is an even better prize, being such a large nation and one of their enemies for quite some time. So Iran has taken advantage of the situation. Oh, okay, Audra, great. I can see him in here. All the comments should be coming up in. So hopefully I'm getting all the comments here. And we'll I should be seeing, we're using StreamYard, you guys. So hopefully it's supposed to allow me to stream to all the different sites, and I should be getting comments from all the different sites, and I see them. So hopefully I'm getting everybody. And if I'm missing anybody with comments, please excuse me. We're certainly learning the new technology as quickly as we can. The Iraqi people that we liberated from Saddam Hussein have never had an interest in having Iran control their government any more than they've had an interest in being controlled by a violent dictatorship. Neither of those things are in the best interest of the Iraqi people, nor are they in the best interest of the world at this point. Let's talk a little bit about what happened in the parliament. Now that we're talking about Iraq and Iran, and we have a basic understanding about the fact that there are Iranian influences infiltrating and influencing the government decisions as well as the military decisions, as well as engaging in terrorist activity on Iraqi soil against Iraqis and against the opposition to the Shiite-led government in Iraq, which is has a lot of backing from the Iranian government. Now, in Parliament yesterday, the Iraqi Parliament voted. Hello, Loretta. How's it going? Good to see you on my YouTube page. The Iraqi government voted to ask the Prime Minister to ask the United States to remove their troops. So there was no binding resolution that requires the troops to be removed. The Parliament does not have that power. The troops are in Iraq on the privilege and by the request of the Prime Minister, and only the Prime Minister can request that the troops remove themselves or be removed by the United States. This resolution passed by the Iraqi Parliament, 180 members passed it, Shiite members. The Sunni members opposed the Americans leaving, and they did not show up for the vote. Let's say that again, because I think this is really important, because what you're going to hear from the news is a lot of spin. How's it going, Karen? About the Iraqis voting us out of their country, okay? And you're going to need to understand and be able to communicate what actually happened is the Iraqi Sunnis, who are not infiltrated by the Iranians and who are very frustrated with the Iranian infiltration and influence into their political leadership through the Shiite party, through the Shiite members in the government. They do not want the Americans to leave. They want the Americans to stay because they know what a securing force the Americans have been, that have even allowed them to have some hope. When you're looking at a government under Saddam Hussein, we had a very huge risk taking out Saddam Hussein in that we could create another radical Islamic republic like we see in Iran, because Saddam, being heavily connected to the Sunni side of politics there in Iraq, he is taken out, his party loses favor, the Shiites gain favor, but they are Iranian based and they are very radicalized in their implementation of Sharia in the government. We were very concerned about that, as we should be, but this is what happens when you go into other countries and tear down regimes. You destabilize things. So what we have is a situation where the Iraqi people are now beholden and entrapped by Iran, as we thought it would be in many ways. But in order to protest the fact that Iranian-backed influences were basically voting to kick out their main military support, the Americans, who are training to this day, we are currently training Iraqi troops and individuals in order to prepare them to be able to defend their own country. They don't want us to leave. And so they didn't show up to the vote. So it is not in any way a reflection of the Iraqi people as a whole asking the United States to leave. It is a direct reflection of the Iranian-backed government influences asking us to leave. So what happened is we bombed their head general, and the Iranian influencers were like, you guys we're mad. And they voted to kick us out. Iran voted to kick us out of Iraq because we killed their general. It's not what the news is going to tell you. That is the facts of what actually happened. So we're seeing a situation. Now, here's what's very interesting, because we've watched this Iran situation develop over some time. We watched what was happening with the aggression in the Straits of Hormuz, with the drone strike, the attack against our U.S. drone. We saw what was happening with the Iranian threats. They were taking hostage ships, other nations taking hostage ships there in the waterways. Iran has been increasing aggression. This embassy attack was a further increase of aggression. Our response was actually after many, many, many events. And if you recall, it was the left, it was the Democrats who were so upset when we didn't go to war with Iran after the drone strike and after the ship was taken, the British ship or whatever. They're like, oh, the British ship was taken. You're not going to do anything to help our friends, the British? And we're like, nah, I figure you got it. And then the left was mad because Trump is not going to get us in a war with Iran. Now they're mad because Trump is going to get us into a war with Iran. Neither of those things are going to happen. Hey, Alex Medegian, how's it going? That's fantastic. Alex asks a great question. Let me see if I can put that. There's a new thing. Let's see. I can show this on the. Oh, look. Here's Alex's question. And I can share the question with everybody. Alex Medegian, one of our great friends and fellow patriots here, says, I'm traveling to Israel soon. I'm not worried about my safety, but my family is. Do you think Iran will retaliate by attacking Israel? Alex, here's why I'm going to say no to that answer. One, we're already seeing what Iran is doing to retaliate in the attack on the Kenyan facility. There was an attack on an air base that the United States uses in Kenya. Al-Shabaab, a Iranian-funded, Iranian-backed organization, had an attack after our Soleimani attack, just the day after, did an attack there. Two American soldiers and some contractors were killed and people injured, but we repelled the attack. Iran does not have the capacity right now, particularly with the sanctions that we have been putting on Iran, which have been very effective. I've been talking with people in Iran on Swedish radio that broadcast into Iran. I get a chance to do some radio shows and we get to talk to Iranians directly. They are suffering from those sanctions. So we know those sanctions are working. The government is struggling and suffering as far as that economically. They do not have the economics or resources to fight both the United States and Israel. So their hope, their only hope, and that's why I think you have no fear, Alex, whatsoever. Their only hope is to attack the United States in, yes, thank you, two contractors and a serviceman. Thank you, Alex. Attack the United States in these satellite interests like in South Africa, places where we are operating throughout the Middle East, where they're not threatening Israel. If they go and attack Israel directly, Israel has planes up in the air within milliseconds, and we've bombed the heck out of Tehran, as has the United States. They do not have the capacity for an all-out frontal war with the United States and Israel at the same time. So no, I don't think anything will happen to you while you are in Israel. You are probably at far graver risk, Alex. You are probably at far graver risk from random Palestinians shooting rockets into Israel, as they continue to do. How's it going, Eric? As they continue to do, than you are in any way needing to worry about that. So now I don't know how the comment goes away. Let's see if we can make it go. Oh, there we go. And then it goes away. Yeah, technology. That's fun stuff. So we're going to see a few things to keep an eye out. Obviously, we're going to see some, as I just said to Alex, some satellite attacks as Iran tries to flex its muscles, show a little bit of toughness. It cannot cave. It is already lying about attacks that it's conducted to its own people so that it appears stronger. You know, they've got that beautiful red flag of doom. I've got my red Trump towel, so I'm ready. You know, if we need to make another red flag, I feel like every one of us should have a red flag of doom. Doesn't it just sound fun when you're really angry? We should use that as a symbol in our families. I think we could stop some fights and stuff. You know, when you're really just PO'd, you're done with people, you just pull out your red flag of doom, just put it up, let everybody know. No, I'm on red flag of doom, people. I can't even handle you anymore. And I think people would calm down. I think people would certainly calm down. So now what we're seeing, let's talk a little bit about what Nancy's doing in the House as far as these War Power Act. We see Chuck Schumer trying to mimic this in the Senate. Nancy is trying to pass a resolution that would limit the president's ability to act militarily against Iran after 30 days. So if he doesn't formally go to Congress and request their permission to engage in military action with Iran. After 30 days, Congress says he wouldn't be able to do it anymore. The problem with Nancy's whole entire plan is that actually we've already proven in the courts the president has vast ability to operate as the commander-in-chief, to operate in theaters where we are already active, which obviously the Iraq war theater continues to be that. Two, to act on direct and immediate intelligence in any way that saves or prevents loss of life of Americans and American interests. So it would not, in this attack on the embassy, nothing that Nancy and the House Democrats and the Senate Democrats are trying to pass as far as quote unquote limiting the president's military power against Iran would have stopped his assault on Soleimani at the airport after the embassy attack. That assault, not merely a retaliation for a brutal attack on our U.S. embassy, but a response to intelligence that suggested additional and future attacks were planned by Soleimani and by the individuals that were also killed with him, the 3 Iraqi leaders there on the ground and his second in command. Imminent attacks prevented by taking out Soleimani. So none of that would have been changed by anything the House is trying to pass. And certainly Bill Romanowski says, let's put this up here. Heard there is some military movement right now in Iraq. Bill, I would not be surprised because as we talked about early in the show, what we are seeing in Iraq is about 100,000 Iranian on the ground, Iranian operatives there, and they have vowed to take additional attacks there in Iraq. They have certainly vowed to cause some problems, and they're certainly very angry with the Sunni-based parliament members who did not show up for the vote today, who are boycotting the parliament procedures on this resolution to have the U.S. removed. It's going to be a little tense in Iraq. Not something I think we're going to be too worried about here, but that is one of the reasons we see a temporary increase of troops in Iraq to ensure the security. We're going to see a little bit of heat for a little while, but we have certainly taken out a vast ability of Iran to operate attacks across multiple nations, across multiple platforms, and a lot of the connections. What I'm hearing out of Iran we're limiting Iran from doing that. What I'm hearing out of Iran is that the next in command that would be taking Soleimani's position is in fact quite weak and quite ill-informed and unexperienced. So we're going to see what happens. But we have seen individuals are being motivated by this to join the military, to join service. I've seen several of my own personal friends who are already enlisted choose to re-enlist. So, the American people, the American soldier, the men and women who go into our armed forces, they are such passionate patriots, and their love of this country really supersedes any concern for their own well-being. And we should be ever so grateful that there are individuals in our world that are willing to time and time again, they go back again and again into these conflicts and continue to protect our interests, but also their fellow soldiers there overseas, fighting often in conflicts that make no sense. And we're there for totally dumb reasons because politicians have put us there. We've seen that happen again and again. What we see with President Trump doing, and why I'm so frustrated with the left and the news narrative, because what we see with President Trump, they're continuing with this idea that we're storming into some sort of war, when in fact, the left has been trying to drag us into war with Iran throughout this entire year. These actions are doing the opposite of that. They're actually limiting Iran's ability to engage in war. And because of that, the left is really, really mad. Their overseers are very upset because we're actually decimating their capacity to do it whatsoever. It's kind of amazing. Yes, with the leftists, let's read Bruce's comment here. Let's see if we'll put it up. With the leftist fake news, and we'll just read the first part here. Refuses to admit in 2007 the U.S. included him in a designation of Iranian entities and individuals for proliferation of activities of support of terrorism. That is correct. U.S. citizens forbidden from doing business with Soleimani. Soleimani is a registered terrorist, has been noted as a terrorist by the Obama administration, by the Bush administration, basically all the way back to 1979 when he participated in the hostage situation there in Iran. So we've been doing that a long time, and we'll continue to do it. I'm really interested to see how this moves forward because I think we are resolving some things in the Middle East in profound ways. President Trump's use of drones and a limited use of boots on the ground has taken out ISIS. It has taken out military leaders now in Iran and Iraq throughout the terrorist Middle East. Those networks are certainly being decimated without our need to continue to occupy foreign nations. And what we will see, there was a letter, of course, that came out from the government, from the White House. People are suggesting that in fact the president has, the White House put out a letter saying that we are going to be withdrawing from Iraq. Rumor is now having it that was a letter that was a draft. It was not something that was being considered yet. But as you know, whenever these little bits of information come out, it's usually the president kind of giving us a hint as where we're going. We're reducing troop levels in Afghanistan and Iraq. And I think it's important for the president to indicate to us, even in this sort of, hey, oops, I didn't mean to tell you that as we're sending troops over now to deal with the immediate need, we have a long-term and, in fact, a medium-term plan to remove our troops from these foreign military actions. President Trump is doing that more than any other president. It's absolutely one of the things I love about President Trump, the most, not a military industrial complex guy. So great. All right. Let's move on. I want to talk a little bit real quickly about the Australia fires. As you know, there's hundreds of fires burning across Australia. There are huge evacuations. There's tons of pictures of sad, burned koala bears and kangaroos. Everyone's very upset about the Australian fires. All right. The left is trying to do this spin on some climate change. Here's the part the left isn't telling you. Over 200 people, listen to me when I'm telling you this. Over 200 people have been arrested for acts of arson in relation to these wildfires that are spread all over Australia. Yes, that's correct. I'm going to repeat that again. Over 200 people have been arrested by Australian authorities for acts of arson. This is an entirely what I am calling, and what many people have already termed this kind of behavior, I am claiming it to be eco-terrorism. It is very unlikely that 200 people just woke up on the same morning and said, you know what? I want to go start fires. I'm just twitchy and I need to see flames. That is very unlikely. This is clearly some sort of coordinated action, as we've seen in the past with militant environmentalist groups using spikes in trees to harm people who do log cutting. They're taking over of the pipeline area. They have done a lot of dangerous. They don't care if they harm people. They don't care. And now, what I find most ridiculous is you're literally burning up a whole continent, a continent, so that you can go around screaming climate change. Now, Yeah, the same thing happens in California, actually. You're absolutely right, Kevin. Kevin says the same with California. Yes, the same with California. A lot of those fires are started intentionally. And as we see this sort of radicalized eco warriorship, these eco Nazis who are running around trying to tell us to all give up our cars and stop flying in planes and don't let our cows fart, their desperation to prove their point again and again, and now frequently results in what we're seeing in Australia. Unfortunately, with over 200 arrests, we obviously have some sort of serious issue. Now, here's another thing that you want to keep in your craw about the Aussie Fire situation. We and the UK, both England and the United States, offered Britain help. We offered to send them our big planes, our scooper planes, the planes that dump water, that can, all of our firefighting aircraft. We offered to send them. Australia didn't want it. They didn't want our help. They didn't want our planes. They said, we don't need it. We don't need it. We're fine. And then the next day they were complaining, we don't have enough planes. Well, yeah, we know. That's what we offered to send the planes. But you know, we can't shove them down your throats, Australia. We can't literally go there with planes and just like invade your country with water dropping planes because you're too stupid to accept our help. But we see this divide, these political divides, actually, not just within our nation, but we see these internationally, and we see a struggle. We see an ongoing struggle. Oh, hi, how you go? Hi, Chris. I'm still working out how the comments come up. So I know I post it live on my page and on the Trump Talk page, and I think all the comments come up, but it might not be all the comments, so I'm not sure. We're still working out the bugs. We're going to keep working out the bugs. But that's what's going on in the Australia fire situation. It is an arson situation. These are not climate change related fires. The Australian government rejected the help of the United States and Britain. So we certainly, when they start whining, keep all of those things in mind. Now, another little tidbit before we move on to domestic politics and the Golden Globes and what the awesome monologue that Ricky Gervais did last night. I do want to just touch on the new news. You're the monkey bug, Chris. So whatever bug you are, we need you. We need you. You're like probiotics, you know, like the good biotics. So I'm sorry, I made myself laugh with that. That one kind of cracked me up. France has recently started drone attacks on terrorist sites. They took out 7 terrorists. I'm not sure where the attack occurred. I have to relook that up. But France has now joined the United States and other nations at being a nation who is now conducting drone attacks against terrorists within just the last week. So what we see happening in the news and what we see actually happening in regards to foreign policy and international relations and with the United States and our allies taking on these terrorist groups, these terrorist organizations, some pretty interesting stuff. However, that's just real news. That's actually the real news. That's what's actually happening. France has now joined the United States as a country who has drone capacity, armed drone capacity, and is using that to fight terrorism. All right. Golden Globes last night. Oh my, I know, right, Bruce? Here, well, let's share Bruce's joke with everybody. I think we can do this. Bruce says, France, someone must have got their cigarette wet. Thank you, Bruce. Always love sharing a little bit of humor with everybody. Let's talk about the Golden Globes. Ricky Gervais on fire last night. One of the most phenomenal monologues in one night. Every Trump supporter, every conservative, every right winger, every Q follower, all of us, everybody red pilled, all of a sudden started loving Ricky Gervais. Why? Because he talked about Hollywood's hypocrisy. He talked about their pedophile tendencies. He dropped a Jeffrey Epstein joke. He accused him of all of being friends with them. He accused them of being perverts and pedophiles. He took it to Tom Hanks. He took it to who was it? Leonardo DiCaprio. It went on like this. It was a great monologue and several great bits throughout the night as he's introducing. I'm still looking to try to get all of those little clips in between because he did do some great roasts of individual actors there during the Golden Globes. Now, here's what's important to remember. That was a scripted piece. Things are changing in Hollywood. That is what we should take away from that piece. Everyone who put together the Golden Globes knew very well what Ricky Gervais was going to say. The audience members probably were not aware, but the organizers were in fact aware of exactly what was going to be said. And what I think we're going to see in Hollywood, we're seeing it now, we're going to see it going forward, especially with Harvey Weinstein and his new charges, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute. We are going to see Hollywood more and more try to make light, try to mock what we know to be true about them. They can no longer hide the fact that they have a pedophile problem, that they have a sexual exploitation problem, that there is sexual abuse, huge scandal, pedophilia, child manipulation, sexual exploitation, young women exploitation, human trafficking, all of that. Hollywood, again and again, we've seen the Epstein cases. We've seen Harvey Weinstein, and then now 5 charges just in California. He has another 6 charges awaiting him in New York. So we see that Hollywood is corrupt in particularly this disturbing, pedophilic, sexual way. They are bought and sold, as Ricky Gervais was very clear to lay out, by their supporters, and Apple, their funders in Apple, Amazon, all of these big money folks that basically, they blow smoke up our butts and saying we care, but in fact, when we get down to the nitty gritty, these are the folks that again and again hire the same individuals and have led to this culture of corruption, exploitation, and hypersexualization of our youth, which is a sincere problem we have and have had for quite some time in the United States. So for Ricky Gervais to call them out on that, fantastic. And I think the beginning of what we're going to see more and more, because they've got to get over the shock of it. I don't mean they have to get it for themselves. Hollywood will die, and it's probably going to suffer and be forced to engage in a massive transformation, particularly in the long term. But Hollywood will die a quick and dangerous, brutal death if, in fact, they can't get us to laugh at their heinous crime. So while everyone is really excited, and I think Ricky Gervais did a great job, I'm also a little wary, to be honest. I'm a little wary of making light of these behaviors, because I think that is one of the ways that we often see entertainment, we often see Hollywood, we often see the entertainment industry normalize their criminal, scandalous activity, kind of like, oh, we're so scandalous, and then it gets out there, and we just get inundated to it and inoculated to it, and we're not nearly as upset over time. So let's see what happens. I think it was a very interesting night. I think, Ricky Gervais is in no way a right winger, but it was certainly nice to see a refreshing breath of fresh reality, maybe is what the words I could use, when we see that so rarely. And we will have to see what that really imparts going forward. Now, let's talk about Harvey Weinstein, because I think this is one of the reasons we even have this Ricky Gervais thing going on is, and the need to talk directly about this is it is in Hollywood's face right now. Harvey Weinstein trial is raging. 2 new charges were drawn up and filed against him today. As far as California charges, I believe he is up to like 5 different charges against different accusers, multiple charges with each of those accusers, forced rape, forced oral copulation, imprisoning someone for sexual exploitation and abuse. The charges are not good. They're violent, sexual, abusive, rape-related charges in each and every situation with each of these different women. And those are just the California charges. Those are just the charges in California. There are another 6 or 7 charges in New York. So we see actually Harvey Weinstein in the process of 2 trials on both coasts, multiple accusations by multiple individuals accusing him of violent and inappropriate sexual exploitation and rape of women, and using his power, using his influence as a movie mogul to lure these women into situations where he could take advantage of them and or commit these violent criminal acts. Loretta, I want to share that because it's a good point. Loretta asks, what was with the walker? Oh, great question, Loretta. Great question. Did everybody notice Harvey Weinstein walking with his little walker? When we see a lot of celebrities will do this, a lot of criminal attorneys will suggest, as you are going to trial, that you look as frail as possible, so that all the jurors will look at you and go, how could this poor old man who can barely walk, how could he possibly forcibly rape and shove these women down, pin them down, restrain them, and force them himself physically on him? So they use this prop. They use a prop, and it's absolutely disgusting to watch. Because as we know, you've seen Harvey Weinstein at the speaking events, in and around. He didn't need the walker at the play he was at the other day, at the comedy show he was at a few months ago, where he got roasted. So it is clearly a ploy by Harvey Weinstein and by his attorneys to make him seem old and frail and incapable of committing these crimes. Yes, Audra, I know. You know that, and I know that. But that will be up to the prosecuting attorney to make very clear, because jurors are human beings, and we are subject to all of the psychology of human beings. So when there is a visual bias, when I see you, what I see in front of me is what I think you are. And then you need to be informed that I might have been something different. That is an intellectual construct that I have to get into my head, because my eyes are telling me you're an old, frail old man. And so what they do is they try to make you think of him, oh, he's old and frail. Oh, he's so grandfatherly. And it projects that image. And that psychologically affects how the jurors view the defendant and possibly how they rule. It's a lot of psychology. It's a lot of manipulative psychology when it comes to these trials, and particularly these defense attorneys. Yes, Audra says that's if he survives. Audra says that's if he survives the first trial or the second one. That's correct. Weinstein is not looking so well. That's another great point to make, Audra, that in fact some of the desire by his attorneys to give the indication that he has very weak health is certainly, it makes a lot more sense when he, dies and ends up, hanging out on Michael Jackson's island of not really dead celebrities. I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's going to kill himself, but celebrities have a way of dying, and you can just go and live your little nice secret life with all that money. So we'll see. There's going to be a lot of individuals that are involved in some of this deep networks. Harvey Weinstein proves that it was not just individuals in the entertainment industry exploiting young girls, exploiting children, but that there were networks and connections being made. That certainly networks of individuals were participating in these child pedophile rings. That is what Harvey Weinstein really brings out. That's what Epstein really brings out. That's the fact that can't go away with Epstein and Weinstein in the room. I personally, if I were Harvey Weinstein, I would take out a full, if I wanted to live and not accidentally suicide myself, as we know, Jeffrey Epstein did not accidentally suicide himself. If I were Harvey Weinstein, I'd take out a full 2-page ad in the New York Times or whatever, and just write a nice letter that says, I have no intention of ever killing myself, just so you might protect yourself. Because, we make jokes about Ricky Gervais getting whacked for his monologue, for speaking truth to power, as it were. Harvey Weinstein has a lot more truth, dangerously close to coming out through the trial than anything that Ricky Gervais could possibly have said. But I do want to talk about, hey Marita, how are you? I do want to talk a little bit about that idea that we are living in a world, we're living in a time now where we directly consider that if anyone comes out and starts speaking real truth to power, that they're going to get whacked. We're living in political Goodfellas, you guys. It's a scary world, and we're going to need to continue to work very hard over 2020. It's one of the reasons President Trump has been so important for this country, and it's one of the reasons I dedicate so much time personally, and I know so many other individuals dedicate so much of their time to making sure that we reelect this president, that we continue to push forward with the agenda points and the continued winning, as we call it, the continued winning of our American first ideals being implemented, the power going back to the people, constitutionalism being restored throughout the nation. The reason is how dangerous the world we're actually living in, how dangerously close to totalitarianism and to the collapse of liberty, of the First Amendment, of the Second Amendment, of our Bill of Rights, of our constitutional liberties, the utter collapse that the socialist left and their friends on the progressive right have put upon this country. It's become very scary, and we see it when we see it in the jokes. And I've noticed this in a lot of the humor that we on the right often use we laugh at Zuckerberg shutting us down. We have Zuckerberg jail memes. It's all a coping mechanism we do to deal with what is in reality pretty vicious fascist tactics being used directly on individuals in a frightening way, in a way that is literally changing our psychology. It's one of the concerns I really have with this long, prolonged fight. And it's why I advocate to so many of my patriots, take breaks, find friends, make good connections, step away from social media when you start to get really frustrated, because the constant battering and beating and suppression and oppression by the fascistic tactics through social media, through the leftist deep state influences that are still within our government, it wears on you. It wears on you. Even more so when you start getting into all of the things that we've been advocating for, running for office, supporting candidates, becoming a delegate in your state, becoming a poll watcher, getting involved with your local Republican Party, influencing those decisions. You start to run into this buzzsaw of establishment individuals, equally demoralizing, so frustrating just constantly be trying to succeed at what we all know to be. Yeah, Chris, it is. Welcome, Fred. Good to see you. It does put your health at risk. Here we'll put Chris up on the thing here. Yeah, it's putting my health at risk, says Chris. It is. It is putting your health at risk. Hey, Fred, how's it going? I didn't mean to put that up there. Because the stress and the exhaustion and the tension and the constant need to keep using your biology to keep your adrenaline and your flight or fight syndrome down, that's exhausting. Ultimately, it wears on the immune system. It's very difficult. So we need to take breaks, but we also need to, and I want to spend the next, we've got about 8 more minutes here in the show today. We're just starting to get back into our rhythm for 2020. We're going to be doing this show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here. We broadcast now on Facebook, on my Facebook page, Trump Talk US. You can find that at www.trumptalkus. On my YouTube channel, Trump Talk US YouTube channel, and on Periscope on my my Twitter feed at Trumpertarian. So we're now broadcasting on multiple platforms. We're certainly doing everything we can to defeat Zuckerberg and Google and all of the suppression that we're seeing going on social media. But one of the things I talk about, and we're going to continue to talk about strategy, a very important strategy is to find those relationships we have in real life. Build those connections. You're going to need them for the politics. We all have a group of friends that we talk to on a regular basis on social media. We don't have their phone number. We don't have their email. Yes, the shows will be at 8 p.m., Judith, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Yes. Now, let me mention this, then we'll go into what I was saying about strategy. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm not going to be gone. We're going to be doing some fun stuff. I'm going to use those days, much more flexible, but we're going to use those days for live on the street stuff, going down to Congress, doing flag waves, doing fun videos. I want to do a cooking segment, kitchen table politics. We'll do some cooking together, and we'll talk about all of the politics that we're going through at the same time, just like we would do if we were sitting in my kitchen face to face. We're going to do some fun stuff with those Tuesdays. President Nutcracker is going to do some videos Tuesdays and Thursdays. So always check on the pages to see what's coming up. I just wanted to let you know, in addition to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday shows, we're going to keep doing stuff Tuesdays and Thursdays, but it's going to be fun because we need, as I'm going to talk about the strategy point right now before we leave the show, we need to have some fun. We need to build relationships and friendships. We need to let our hair down. We need to every now and then relax a little bit, take a night off from politics and frustration, go out and have a pitcher of beer and some wings, whatever you do, margarita night, maybe you don't do adult beverages, go out and, have ice cream, whatever you do. But what we need to do is build and connect those relationships that we have in social media in real life. Some of them we already do. We have many friends that we already do connect with. Maintaining, I'm going to plead with you throughout 2020. Keep your friends close. Keep those physical relationships. Those relationships even on the phone. Those when you're physically people, you pick up the phone and you talk to them, not texting. Texting is great, keeping communication, but have some kind of physical contact. And even when you can't actually hug a person, which is always the best thing, be able to be with your friends, be with other human beings, hug them. That's the most functional, productive being together way human beings can be. We heal each other through hugs and physical contact. We support each other. We encourage each other. We empower each other. We embolden each other. We can do great things when we are physically together that we cannot do when we are alone. But even when you're talking on the phone, you're still being physically affected by the phone. Your friend's voice is sending waves in the air through the phone device, and that's literally moving part of your ear inside so that you can hear. So your body is still having a physiological connection to another human being. So I'm going to encourage each and every one of us, build those relationships throughout this early part of the new year. Take some time to connect with individuals as we get closer to November. Why am I saying do that in the first part of the year? As we get closer to November, we're all going to be working. We're going to be getting out the vote. We're going to be registering. We're going to be making lists of everybody. We're going to be driving to the polls, making sure we get people to the polls. We're going to be checking on our voter checklist. These are the 20 people I have to check and make sure they voted. We're going to be doing a lot of work. It's going to be busy. It's going to be stressful. It's going to be tense. And the left is going to be throwing crazy at us the whole time. Okay? Fake sex accusations, war panic. It's going to be World War IV by then. The left is going to be insane. So we're going to be busy, and the left is going to be insane, and it's going to be very distracting. Those are the times when our relationship should already be solid. So January, February, March, let's build up these relationships. Let's build up our connections. I want everybody to have a piece of paper, an analog. Get one of those real physical phone books if you have to. Write down names and numbers. Be analog, because you're going to be so grateful when we see social media cut out, when we see the internet start to be affected, when we see Google start to be affected. We're going to see a lot of that stuff amped up as we go into 2020. The left is desperate, and they do have a lot of access to digital technology and to manipulate how we are able to use digital technology. So we need to be able to operate analog. That's how we save ourselves. So important. So important. All right. That is our show for today, folks. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I want to thank Chris McDonald, the Monkin, for greeting patriots, sharing links, and always being here to be a part of the show. We're going to continue, as I said, doing the show Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on YouTube, on Periscope, Facebook pages, on my Facebook profile. We're going to see it on all those different platforms, because we're going to defeat the Zuck monster who wants to keep me quiet. And we're going to see some fun stuff going on. So, until then, you guys, let's play a little bit of this and jump out.
But if I get elected president, I will bring it back bigger and better and stronger than ever before.
That's all right, Chris. No, we're getting used to this. We're getting used to the new platform. Thank you, Judith. That's all right, Teresa, Loretta, Melinda, Audra, all of you folks. Chris, I love you as always. Teresa, that's right. That's great. Let's leave on this. Teresa says, damn right, Trump will take 2020 in a victory landslide. Yes, he will. But we need to use that victory to take back the House and increase our margin in the Senate. And I know we're going to be able to do that. You and me together. Love you guys. Until next time, this is, as always, your girl, Suzzanne Monk. Trumping out.